Hi, welcome to Story Time with Gigi. Today we're reading a Disney story called Minnie Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a kind-hearted girl who was loved by all who knew her. Her grandmother had made her a cape of red wool as a gift. The girl wore it so often that her family and friends began to call her Minnie Red Riding Hood. One day, Minnie Red Riding Hood baked a batch of oatmeal chocolate chip cookies for her dear grandmother, who had a bad cold. She placed them neatly into a tin. "Grandmother would like these super strong cinnamon cough drops too," said Minnie, packing a second tin. Then she put on her red riding hood, tucked her tins into a basket, and set off to see her grandmother. The way to grandmother's house went right through the center of the village. "Hello, Minnie Red Riding Hood," called out a friendly shopkeeper. "Good morning," said the apple seller. Minnie Red Riding Hood loved greeting the village folks as she walked down the main street, but she was not happy when she ran right into Big Bad Pete, the village meanie. "Hello, Red," he sneered. "What's in the basket?" "Well, sir," said Minnie politely, "I'm taking cookies to my grandmother who has a bad cold." Big Bad Pete's mouth began to water. He loved cookies. Minnie did not like the look on his face. "I must be going. Goodbye," she called. As Minnie walked away, Big Bad Pete hurried off along another path that also led to grandmother's house. As he sneaked up the front walk, Big Bad Pete spotted grandmother's wash hanging out to dry on the clothesline. He said, coming up with a crafty plan. Minutes later, Minnie Red Riding Hood skipped up the walk toward grandmother's front door. Before the girl could knock, Big Bad Pete jumped out from behind a bush disguised in grandmother's clothing. "Oh, hello, Minnie Red Riding Hood," squeaked Big Bad Pete, trying to sound like a little old lady. "Have you come to pay me a visit?" "Why, yes," Minnie Red Riding Hood stammered. "Grandmother's cold must be very bad indeed," she thought. "She looks awful." The girl looked closely. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," Big Bad Pete squeaked sweetly. "And what big eyes you have," said the girl. Big Bad Pete crept closer. "All the better to see you with, my dear." Minnie does not look like she believes. "And what big teeth you have," Minnie exclaimed. Big Bad Pete moved even closer. "All the better to eat those cookies with, my dear," he shouted. Suddenly, Big Bad Pete snatched a tin out of Minnie Red Riding Hood's basket and threw off his disguise. "Ah, ha, 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 ha," he laughed wickedly. "I tricked you. Now those cookies are all mine." As Minnie Red Riding Hood looked on, Big Bad Pete tore off the cover of the tin, threw his head back, and emptied its entire contents into his mouth. Too bad for Big Pete. It was the wrong tin. Those cinnamon cough drops were so super strong that Big Bad Pete's face turned bright pink and his eyes grew large. His whole mouth and throat felt like they were on fire. "Water! Water!" he gasped as he stumbled down the front walk. Just then, Minnie Red Riding Hood's grandmother opened the front door. Serves him right. "Oh, hello, dear," said grandmother. "How sweet of you to visit." "I've brought cookies, Grandmother," said the girl. "How delightful! Let's go inside. I'll make some cinnamon tea," said Grandmother. Minnie Red Riding Hood spent a very pleasant afternoon with her grandmother. And that meanie, Big Bad Pete, spent a very awful afternoon with a super hot cinnamony throat. "I'll never scare anyone again," he said, "and no more of Minnie Red Riding Hood's cookies for me." And that's our story. I hope you liked it. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends. Bye until next time.